He's lived the life inside the ring. Now he's living the life outside the ring. And I'm here with Anthony Arvelo, who is a promoter of Undisputed Promotions. Anthony, let's weigh in on some stuff here.
Who am I? I'm the greatest. Who am I? I'm getting paid. Who am I? I'm so flagrant.
First of all, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for taking time out of your day. I know your dad's birthday party or something, so happy birthday, Pops.
Appreciate it.
I definitely appreciate family time and stuff like that, so I'm not going to try to keep you way too long, but I appreciate you coming on. And I want to thank my sponsor, Don Rico Tequila, and everybody for supporting us and subscribing to us. Appreciate you guys. Anthony, what's that transition like? Let's go all the way back. What was your transition from, I know you had a couple pro fights, you're 2-0, I believe.
Yeah.
What was that transition from being a professional boxer to now a promoter?
It was just being in the sport, just understanding and doing everything from level one and working your way up. So just experiencing the fight game, just being an amateur and turning pro, also throwing the amateur shows. So at that point, it was like, I could do this, you know, and I needed I always say I needed a me back in the days. So everything that the fighters, that I felt like I needed at that time is what I give to these fighters. So it was pretty easy transition to get into the pros.
So what first got you started in boxing in general? What caught your eye? Did you have a favorite fighter that you were just like, man, I want to be like this guy?
You know, it was my family. We just grew up in it, family of fighters, but nobody ever really took it serious. So that was more motivation for me to really push. I used to play baseball in high school, but boxing was always a passion for me, and it was something that my pops always really wanted to, you know, he wanted it to happen. So I loved it. I loved it. It was good because, you know, you just it's a team sport when you have your corner, but when you're in the ring, it's just you.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to put that out there where it's like I could show myself. I just started late in life. I started late with turning pro and things like that, but I love it.
And we were talking off there a little bit, and you brought something up. You were just like, I had 2 pro fights. You're 2-0. You're like, my third fight, all the business of it, and it just kind of fell out at the last minute.
Yeah.
Now as a promoter for you, though, how often does that happen? It happens a lot.
Happens a lot. It just happened to us the other night. You know, the last show but it's what comes with the sport. Look at right now, Hitchens. That's a world-class fight.
That was wild.
Yeah. And we try to, you know, for us, it's a disappointment. You know, it's a letdown because we want to be able to follow through and get these fights to happen. But, you know, things happen. So whether it was an injury or, you know, somebody just got cold feet, whatever the case is we can't force nobody to get in the ring. It's unfortunate if the fight doesn't go through, but it happens.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you're right. It's just the business of it. And I've talked about it so many times on this podcast.
Yeah.
Amateur boxing to me was more of a sport. Like you're fighting for the love of it. You're fighting for trophies. You're fighting for recognition. You're fighting for yourself, essentially. When you turn pro, it's a business first.
Yeah.
It is. And you know this, right? Like you're involved in it. It is. It's still a sport. I get it. But there's a heck of a lot of business that has to happen first.
Yes.
Before you step into that ring.
Yes.
And so that's what I want to talk about is since you were a former fighter, you kind of know what they all went through. You know expectations to give your guys. Do you think that's what you kind of bring to the table as a promoter, that you've kind of been through it all and now you want to really, like I said, you want to control guys' expectations? Because if you go into a fight knowing that there is a possibility that it might not happen, if you go into a fight thinking it's going to happen for sure every single time, that'll burn you out.
Yes.
So how do you approach that now with your fighters? Because you have a lot of fighters that fight under Undisputed Promotions.
Right.
How do you handle the fighters, and how do you handle telling them when, hey, this fight's not happening, bro?
It's tough, but you just kind of got to rip the Band-Aid off and just let them know. But also, you know, with letting them know how the sport works. And the majority of them know what the sport is like. They know that this happens because they have an amateur background, and how many times a fight, you get a walkover or something comes up and the fight don't go through. But in this sport, anything can happen. So if there's nothing we can do to make the fight, you know, you don't force it. You just got to let it be what it's going to be, live to fight another day, and just keep it moving. But expectations lead to disappointment. So if you're expecting for everything to go 100% the way you want it, then yeah, you're setting yourself up there. Yeah. So, but the guys, the fighters are always mentally ready for the fight, which is why it's a disappointment if it falls out, because they're already in that zone. They're in fight mode, but it just comes with the territory.
Have you ever had a couple guys have like a couple in a row fall out, and then you had to kind of manage their like career in the sense of like, hey, bro, come on, like you can do this. I still believe in you, and this is just bad luck. Have you had any fighters that's kind of you've had to kind of play that card?
I wouldn't say it happened multiple times, but I would say that, things happen, personal life with the fighters. That's why if a fighter can't make a fight or something comes up, we understand that because it's going to happen on your side too at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to happen on the highest of all levels where something doesn't go through, it doesn't go through. But for the most part, the guys are always ready mentally for the fight. It's just for us, we want to make sure because it comes back on us. If the fight doesn't go through, they're always looking at the promoter. So, but we try our best to make sure 100% that everything goes through because it's a way for us to keep things moving.
Would you say that having a good relationship with the matchmaker as well really comes in handy there, or no?
It of course.
Yeah.
It's great to have a relationship with the matchmaker because then he understands, what kind of fight you're looking for, or you have to understand where your fighter is, and they understand that. So you have that relationship, then everybody has a perfect understanding as to what we do, and everything works out great.
So I know that you promoted a lot of amateur fights before coming into the professional game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that until now, really. I know that you were doing stuff like that. Where'd you do them at? Did you do them at the Guild, or what's that place called?
So I started, my first amateur show was in a boxing gym. I don't know if you know a UFC gym?
Yeah, I do. Yes,
All right,
I
so
do.
that was LA Boxing
Yep.
back in the days.
I actually worked there.
Oh, you did?
Before, when it was LA Boxing, I think you had just left.
Yeah.
And Mike Sawyer hired me as the general manager after you'd left, and it was still LA
Oh, so
Boxing.
you was the new general manager.
Yeah. It was well after you were gone.
Yeah.
Like it was well after you were gone, and he just was doing it himself or whatever. But there's another story there. But so yeah, I knew it was LA Boxing. I was there when it was LA Boxing for like 3 months, and then I was also there in the transition to UFC gym as well. So
Right.
you had they've had a couple amateur shows there.
So I started it off with amateur. We started off Muay Thai and boxing because the members in the gym were doing Muay Thai and they were doing boxing. So I started doing the amateur shows there, and I seen it is we had people coming in, and the capacity was that was a small gym.
Yep.
So we could only fit like 150 people in there, and then we have a line that goes all the way back towards where there was like a Kmart there.
Yep, at the time.
And I was like, oh, we got something here. So we kept doing the shows in the gym. And then from there, we outgrew the gym. So I went and we did the shows in the Orlando Rec Center in downtown Orlando. We did Guilt, which was Guilt became home.
Guilt, yeah.
It used to be called the Roxy. And we turned it into like a little arena. And we had this, which I got from my dad. It was Today's Amateurs, Tomorrow's Pros. And what we wanted to do was build because, you can have 150, 200 fights, but you want to also start getting that pro-style experience.
Yep.
So that's what we started doing. We started getting the fighters ready, putting them under the lights, putting them in the position where they had fights that we started promoting because, the nerves and everything as you're growing as a fighter, you want to get through all that. So they weren't only getting experience in the ring, they were also with, the fight game, they were also getting experience with sitting in front of a camera. They were getting experience being promoted because it puts pressure on them. Where they're promoting people, hey, I can't wait to see you fight. They got used to all that, and by the time they turned pro, it wasn't nothing new to them.
That's a good transition.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I actually did never had that opportunity because I came from a little small town. So when I went from amateur to pro, oh my goodness, thank God I was pretty talented because that first fight of mine was it was insane. The pressure, and honestly, I don't know if my opponent didn't know this, but so it was my pro debut. I think he had like 6 or 7 pro fights. After the second round, the bell rings. We're going back to the corner to go out for the third round, and I'm on my stool with my dad. I'm just like, I'm so tired right now because all the adrenaline and the emotion is your pro debut. I've never been there before. Thank God to this day, the guy quits in between rounds, said he had a broken rib. And I was like, because I was giving him everything I got.
You forget to breathe in the middle of the action. 100%. And you get tired. Yeah.
And I'd been at high level. I won national tournaments in the amateurs, but it just doesn't compare to the pros and the promotion, the media, the fans, the everything.
The pressure.
Yeah.
The pressure, and you have to be ready for that. And that's what helped them. And when they went into the pros, our first pro show was at UCF, in the UCF arena.
Right on.
We kind of just swung for the fences because I kept the momentum from the amateur cards. And every fighter that here in that time, they all fought for us at one point.
Yeah.
And with that, I just kept pushing in. So we went and did the pro show at UCF, and you look at it, that's a big stage. And we had a pro-am show that night. So the amateurs got used to that, fighting in that arena.
Yeah.
And then the pros were able to come in and showcase, because we had a lot of debuts that night too.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
You know, I just remembered back, I went to one show at the Guilt, right? That's what it's called?
Yeah.
I went to one show there. I think it was like, man, it had to be 8 years ago.
Yeah.
8 to 10 years ago. Because I've lived in Florida now for like 13, but I never really was in the boxing scene at all here. But I think it was like 8 years ago. Giovanni Estella fought. I think he was the main event, now that I think about it. He was like 16 years old or something.
Yeah.
But it was like a big deal. But I went there, and that place was packed.
He had a, Puerto Rican fighter.
Yeah.
In Orlando, he had he has a following, people that support him. So yeah, I remember that fight specifically. That was when he won the Undisputed Fight Night Championship.
Yeah.
We had our own belt.
I think it was a very close fight, though, too. I thought it was a very competitive fight.
Yeah.
But I actually thought Giovanni had a pro style in that fight because he wasn't the busier guy, but he was landing like some big shots. And I was like, this guy's he's got a little bit of a pro style the way he was fighting at the time. And this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I forgot about that. I actually never brought that up to Giovanni. Next time I have him on the podcast, I'm going to tell him about that. I was actually at that one.
Yeah.
I got to figure out what date that was, though.
And
who he fought. How many shows did you do there?
Oh,
do you know? A ton, probably.
A bunch, but I think he fought there maybe 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And it was a good experience for them, for him as well, and also for the fans. They had entertainment. There was no amateur shows that was happening here in Orlando.
Yeah.
So I needed to make sure that we got to keep boxing alive here, and that's exactly what we did, and everybody was loving it. These were amateur fights, and amateur shows really don't carry the reputation of that pro setting.
Yep.
They have them in gyms and different venues. Yep. But with this, we were able to give them that Vegas experience and let the fighters go on there and shine.
I mean, the lights were off. There was the lights were off and the spotlights
music.
were on. It was cool. Like you see, and I appreciate them all. I love amateur boxing in general because it does lead to good stuff and it keeps kids out of the streets and all that stuff. I love it. But a lot of the gyms, you have them in gymnasiums. I fought most of my career like in gymnasiums where the lights are on the whole time.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is different. But I did get a chance to fight at a couple ballroom shows at hotels where they kind of did it like that, where they just like shut the lights off and it's only on the ring. So it was kind of a cool setting, but I never really thought about the transition of what you're just talking about. So that's what I think separates certain promoters. There's some promoters, good or bad, that just don't know what it's like leading up to fights, don't know what it's like being on the other side of it, actually fighting. Right. And being there. And then some of them know business, obviously. Most promoters are business guys, and they just get into the boxing game and they know business of it. Fine too, because we do need the business aspect, but to have the total package, you came from fighting, you came from training, you came from promoting amateur shows. You didn't just jump right into pro shows. Nope. You worked your way up, learned the land of the lady of the land, I guess, and then now you're here. And how has it been, and what was that decision to start kind of partnering up with Box Lab, because you do some co-promotions with Box Lab.
Yes.
All your shows now are co-promoted and they're with Box Lab. All your fighters fight on Box Lab cards. Do they only fight on Box Lab cards now?
No, we fought on, the thing is Box Lab has such a great opportunity right now with the networks and with the big promotions that they're working with. And this is something that myself as an independent promoter and also working with fighters that want to get to those stages, it makes sense, So they opened up the door of opportunity to be able to showcase these local guys on those cards, and it made sense for us to do a co-promotion together because they have guys at a higher level. Yeah. They have champions under their stable already. So for us, we want to grow. We want to get to the stage of the guys that they have, and they opened up the door for us, and we've been working hard to keep it going. So
I remember this. This just happened because he came on the podcast. Trey fought one of their guys.
Yes.
What was that like, though? I mean, I just was thinking about him, because I think you and Amari are sitting right beside each other, actually, during that fight, I think.
Yeah.
I know it's the boxing game, and we all know it's the boxing game. It happens. There's a winner and a loser every single time. Doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But was that awkward? Was there any, there had to be something, because you can't just be crazy excited for your guy either, right? But you are.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard to be up and down, because he's sitting right beside you. That's his business, which is the other fighter. Yeah. And that's your business, which is that fighter. Did you feel any No, I think there was one point when we were across the ring from each other, and I seen him, and we just cracked a smile to each other. Yeah.
But it was, we know that at the end of the day, they're in there fighting. And I did my job to get Travius into the opportunity, and Amari did what he had to do to get his guy the opportunity, who was the champion.
That was Gomez, right, at the time?
Gomez.
Yep.
So for us, it was we appreciated the opportunity, but we know it's business, and we know that may the best man win, and we keep it moving. It's not where we, no rivalries or anything like that. We just in there to open up the door and may the best man win.
But I mean, it's good though. I think that, not a rivalry, but I think having that kind of talent, and then you have that kind of talent, he has that kind of talent, the fans win.
Yes.
Like, that was a great fight.
It was.
I mean, I don't care who won or lost. As a fan, I was there for that, and I was entertained.
Yes.
And I think everybody was too. Yes. And that's, at the end of the day, if you're a promoter, obviously you want your guy to win. Mm-hmm. But first and foremost, you want the fans who pay money to go to those shows to be entertained. Mm-hmm. And they 100% left that show saying, yeah, that was worth it.
No, the fans were on their feet. I thought it was fight of the night.
Yeah.
And with Travius, just to put it out there for the people that don't know, he only had 8 amateur fights.
Yeah. I had him on the show.
Yeah. So it's like he had 8 amateur fights, and then he moved his way up, in the pros, and just a hard worker, just somebody that you can't really get out of the gym. Mm-hmm. And that when you have a fighter like that, you got to make sure you keep giving him those opportunities so he can stay motivated and stay pushing. Travius had the drive for it, and I felt like at that point in time he needed that opportunity.
Yeah.
And me and Amaury had a conversation, and we felt like this is the right time, the same weight, everything was good, and they could have picked somebody else.
Yeah.
Easily.
100%.
And what they did was they opened that door up, and we took full advantage of the opportunity. So it was fun.
I mean, Gomez was a top 10. Was he top 10?
Gomez,
the sanctioning body, he got a belt. I think he was top 10.
He was champion, and the fight went vacant. Because remember, we had that title. I had that title when Joksan fought Giovanni Atella.
That's right.
So we had that title.
It went vacant. Why did it go vacant? Because Joksan didn't want to keep it. Didn't want to.
Just with Joksan, he had other plans and other intentions to do what he needed to do best for his career, and we did too. So it wasn't able to work out. But I knew that I had another 154 pounder that was ready to fight. And when Gomez won that belt on the MVP card, that's when we knew he was coming for Matchroom November 1st, and I knew that this was a chance for Trey to get in there and try to fight for that belt. We wanted the rematch, but we'll still work on it.
Yeah, it's not nothing set in stone there.
Nothing yet.
You definitely want it though. Yeah, because what people don't know is Travis is undefeated still because that was a draw.
Yes.
And Gomez got a draw. Gomez actually lost once, hasn't he?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, he had one loss.
It was on a PBC card.
So I mean, again, props to you guys for making that fight because I think it was amazing for the fans. And at the end of the day, I'm a big boxing fan.
Yeah.
And I want to see good boxing matches. Listen, you know this. I have friends that are here that I love a lot of people here. I do. But I respect all of you guys. And that's why I have this platform and have people on from all promotions here. And I want to keep it that way. I want to promote boxing. I'm not necessarily here to promote one person. I want to promote boxing. And that's what I try to do. I try my best to be unbiased about that because I do want to be the boxing voice, I guess, of this area, and then eventually even more than that. But in order to do that, we got to promote boxing.
Yes.
And you have a job with certain fighters, and I appreciate that. I appreciate what you've done with Box Lab. I appreciate what Box Lab has done. You know that I've been on a Box Lab's train before anybody else was. I don't know about you, might have been on it, but I remember about 4 years ago when they first started, I was coming to their dark shows. They call them. They were on TV.
Yeah.
And I was like, the first show, it wasn't so good. But Eric, I became really good friends with Eric and Amari, and he used to text me after every single show. Mm-hmm. I got to meet him on the shows, and what I appreciated about him is he was asking my advice, like not my advice, but he was just like, "What do you think could be better?" Yeah. And I would be like, this and this, whatever. So he kept doing that after every show, and I was just like, man, I appreciate that. Yeah. I do, because that tells me that they're not cocky. They're like, we want to learn, we want to get better. We want to make the shows better for the fans. And I was a fan at the time. I didn't have the podcast, and I wasn't really doing them yet.
Right.
And their shows progressively got better. I mean, like every single show, I was just like, all right, these are the guys. Like, these are the guys I'm going to follow. These are the guys I want to watch. And then, of course, you were I feel like you at the time were one of the bigger ones in Orlando too.
Yeah.
When they were first kind of coming up, and you were doing some TV shows over in the Osceola, maybe at the Heritage Park, or
yeah. So we did.
Didn't you do a couple there?
We had a couple shows that we were doing, and with Karib, we did a show November 2020. and this was through the COVID time.
Yeah.
So we had all the restrictions.
Dark time.
We had the mask and all that stuff, but everybody was just so hungry to come out for a live event.
Yeah.
And they were all successful shows that we did. But we started doing shows all around just because I wanted to just gain that experience, and I had fighters that were in different areas.
Yeah.
So we even did the show in Daytona. And that
I didn't know that.
That was a great show.
Yeah?
That was one of my
All the way in Daytona, huh?
It was one of my favorite shows. Kareem was involved with that show as well. And with, our fighters were here, staying here. But that was one of my favorite shows in Daytona. We did Kissimmee, we did Miami. So when we did these shows, it was just because we wanted to keep growing, not just the brand, but also give the fighters a chance to fight at home. So that's why we kept moving around. But Kareem was where we were based at. Even Mitchell had done a couple shows here from Combat Night.
Yeah.
We did the Combat Night Clash of the Titans, where it was boxing and MMA. I don't know if you've been to any of those shows.
I haven't, but I remember though.
They were fun. And so we just wanted to grow and push out. Now, as far as with Box Lab and Kareem, this is the home base of boxing in Orlando. The Kareem Royale is where it's at, right? Yeah. You also have other venues and other places, but it's a beautiful property. The fighters are here. People that are coming out of town, they're here. Yeah. And they just get that good experience where they feel like, if we can't make it to Vegas, we'll just go to Kareem.
I like it, man. I mean, listen, this is a really cool spot. And speaking of that, I'm recording out of the Stadium Club, which is inside the Carib Royale.
That's awesome, man.
So I love this place. I love how they've treated me. Amari has been so awesome. The partnership with Stadium Club has been so awesome. It allows me to talk boxing. And I'm like you can't fight forever. And I know that. Yeah. But I'm never going to get out of boxing. I love boxing. So I have my own private gym as well. But I love the podcast. I love talking to different people. I could talk boxing all day. Mm-hmm. And I have to have time limits on the podcast nowadays because I will go forever. But we're good though. Still, we're really good. But so how did that happen though? How did that relationship start with you and Amari and Box Lab? What was the first promotion of that? And also, how did it start? How did you meet them? How did you get a hold of them? How did you guys come together?
So it was, I had a show at the OLE. I don't know if you know where OLE is, the Orlando Live Events. It's going towards like Maitland. So they had a venue there, really nice venue. And we went to go do a show there. We booked the date. This was around the COVID time. But what happened was the power in the building was out. Everything was done. Completely shut down. So when I went to do a walkthrough 2 weeks before the fight, it smelled bad. It was mold. And I was like, especially now with COVID, there's no way we could do a show here for these people. And by that time, we had everybody already ready to go. We sold tickets. It was a headache at that time. Yeah. But I walk into the gym trying to figure out what I'm gonna do, how we're gonna do the show. Should we push it back and just go into the new year? And then I talked with Nelson, the boxing coach.
Oh yeah. Coach also with Legacy Boxing, right?
Yeah. And I spoke to him, and there was somebody in the gym. I didn't know who he was, and then he's like, "I got to introduce you to Amauti. Yeah. And he's got a hotel here, this, that." And then we called us into a dinner meeting. We sat down. We had a great conversation because they were Box Lab management at that time. Yep. And we had a great conversation, and they were like, "Just give us the date if you need it." We moved the venue in those 2 weeks.
All the way over to here.
We moved it here, and everybody loved it. And it was just it was a great place, especially at that time with everything that was going on. It was a great place that the people that were coming, and even the safety of the fighters, that everybody was going to be safe and making sure we followed the protocols and everything. Yeah. So this was a great place to do it. So when we did that first show, they loved it, and we just kept doing them. But I wanted to grow and keep moving around, and they had other plans, like they wanted to get the networks and things like that. So for probably a couple years, we were doing our stuff on one way, and they were building those relationships with the networks, and then all good things come together, and here we are.
And then you merged up.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, do you remember who fought on the first show that you did here?
Yes.
Because I'm trying to think if I was there.
Well, it was a pro-am card. So Corey fought Alex Rios. We had
in the amateurs.
In the amateurs.
I bet that was a great fight.
Giovanni Attella, I believe he fought Brian Schwartzberg, I think it was.
That name sounds familiar though.
He's got a whole bunch of fights. He
that name
kept fighting
familiar.
after that. We debuted him. And Who else we had on there? We had Mikey Garcia at that time. We had a couple guys that are still fighting there.
Mikey Garcia.
That's David Garcia's brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we had a few guys on there, and then we just kept rolling the shows back to back.
How have you, so that partnership with Box Lab, now you guys do a lot of promotions together, which is awesome because you're helping boxing, you're helping the boxing community. And I do think that Orlando has become, people used to go to Miami for fights, man.
Yeah.
And the big fights aren't landing there anymore.
Yeah.
They're
And Tampa
landing in
too.
Orlando.
Tampa too. Tampa was a home base for, I believe it was like All Star and One Punch Promotion.
It was All Star.
Yeah.
Was it? Oh my gosh, I forgot the guy's name because I actually back in like 2009, 8 maybe, I fought over in Tampa for that promotion. Gosh, dang,
So
I forgot
All Star
the
was
name of
doing
it.
Kissimmee.
All Star.
All Star was doing Kissimmee, and they were doing Tampa. They were back and forth. But then you also had One Punch Promotion. There was different promotions at that time, but really there was nothing here in Orlando. So when we started doing the amateurs, that was the only boxing locally that people were getting. So that's what helped us out a lot.
So we can thank you for a lot of even the pro shows here then because you built it up through the amateur program.
Yeah.
You kind of got the people's appetite like ready for boxing.
Yes.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
And then they were able to see the boxing itself elevate because we had things that we needed to get done. We needed to get things together just for the fighters, focus on the guys to get the right fights and to move their way up, not just throw a show and sell tickets. So we had a lot of growing to do and learning in the business. If you stop learning, you're not growing. So we kept working, we kept learning and kept pushing and then finally we got these guys fighting on the big stages.
And they're fighting on global TV. I mean, DAZN has been here.
Yes.
All the networks have been here. Literally every network that is essentially in the business now has been through here at the Crib Royale. Mm-hmm. Amazon Prime came through here. CBS, they all came through here, which was crazy. I was coming when it was Bally's. Do you remember Bally's sports shows?
That was in the beginning. That was
like the very beginning. Yeah. It was Bally's, and it was Bally's and Entrabox.
Entrabox.
Yeah, however you say it.
Yeah. I remember.
Those were the shows I was going through.
Yep.
They actually used to have couches ringside, not the tables.
Okay.
They had little couches. I actually loved them. I thought because I was like, dude, it was like a 3 or 4 person couch, and I mean it was kind of like these right here, and you're just like sunk in. And I'm just like watching. I'm like, man, this feels like I'm at home watching it on TV, and that's what I like.
VIP seat.
Yeah, but then they stopped doing them because obviously you could probably sell more tables and more seats, put more seats there. It made sense. I get it. But I still tell them all the time, I'm like, Amari, Eric, I'm like, you got to bring back the couches, man.
Yeah.
To this day, I'm like, I love the couches.
Yeah. MVP does that. Some of the shows, they got the
little ones. Those are like for Jake and those guys too. I guess I'm not that special yet. I'm hoping I get to that point someday where they give me some couches back because I love the couches. Yeah. I think I think it just makes you feel more like you're at home watching boxing matches.
Yeah. You're in your living room watching TV.
Right?
Watching the fights live. Yeah.
And I love that. So we were talking a little bit off the air too about the training of being a professional boxer, about getting ready, staying ready, all of that. What do you think has been your biggest hurdle right now of being a promoter with your fighters and these big fights coming up? Because not all big fights people have. The thing that people don't realize is not every boxer has 8 weeks, 10 weeks notice, right? It just doesn't happen like that. And everybody, the average person thinks that when they see a fight on TV that, oh, this guy had been training for months and months. It doesn't work out that way. But you being a former fighter, now a promoter, do you notice that you have to tell your fighters, like, hey, dude, you just got to be ready, like all the time?
It's some of the guys are young. So they're still growing, they're still learning. And then they have their trainers there to help them and whoever's around them, they're role models, people that are working with them. But yeah, if we're telling a fighter, just make sure you stay ready and stay in shape, mentally ready, be in the zone. A lot of times it's not because they're not doing it. It's because you got to keep reminding that.
Yep.
You got to keep it in their head that this is what we need to do because life is going to catch up, things are going to happen, and that's when you got to snap back and get right into reality and do the right thing. But yes, getting ready for a fight, I think that you should be getting ready. And now in the pros, you should be getting ready for those specific opponents. You should be getting, whatever it is, the technique, game planning, drilling. All those things are really important in not cutting weight in the whole training camp. Because if you have a 4-week, 6-week time frame to get ready for a fight, and 4 of those 6 weeks are cutting weight, well, there's going to be some issues there. And you as a pro with a bunch of fights, you know that you got to stay ready.
Yep.
You know,
100%.
and it's just if you want to be a champion, you got to make those sacrifices. And sometimes it seems like, man, this is tough. This is too much for me. That's what you want. That means you're moving in the right direction.
Yep.
Because if it's easy, there's really nothing coming from it. You know, the hard stuff is where you got to get through to get to that point. So being in shape, being ready, mentally, physically, and emotionally, because, you know, we're all human. Things happen. We can all be, you know, badasses and, you know, all that stuff. But you have to understand that you're human, but we're kind of crazy when you get into that ring. Somebody's going there and get beat up for 10, 12 rounds.
100%.
So it's really important that you be physically and mentally ready for those fights. And we've seen guys like on the top level, like Ryan Garcia and those guys, they've gone through their emotional situations.
100%, dude.
But you got
Tyson Fury's even.
You got to fight through it.
Yep.
You know, and we're all human. We're all going to go through the ups and downs. But if this is something that you want, you got to be crazy enough to sacrifice what you need to sacrifice to do it.
Listen, I always tell everybody this, even my fighters now, just the younger kids. I was like, listen, man, boxing's hard, but if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Everybody would do it.
Right?
Yep.
Like, it's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everybody would do it. And that brings me to the next thing, too, is did you just see, again, boxing got ranked as the #1 hardest sport in the world out of all sports.
Yeah.
They did scientific studies, measurable studies of like neurological things, stamina, all that, and they rated all of them, and boxing was like way above everything. I was actually surprised though. Like I think basketball was like top 5. I was actually shocked.
Was it?
I know, and I love basketball. Basketball is my favorite sport. It's #1. Number 2 was boxing. I grew up. I would have played small college ball, but it was because of boxing. I ended up turning pro. But I would have played some small college ball as well. But boxing kind of took over. But I love basketball. But I was just like, no way. It's not as hard as boxing. Like, it's not even top 5. I think that there's a lot of other sports that are harder than basketball. That's not to diss basketball. It's my favorite. It is. I love it. But it was like top 5. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, me neither.
Right?
Oh,
Like,
is football up there?
American football was 3. Hockey was 2. I can kind of understand that. You're on skates. You're fighting a little bit there too. You're hitting people. I kind of get that one for sure.
Yeah.
I think American football was 3. Even mixed martial arts was down. They were top 10, but like it was down the road a little bit. And I was just like, mixed martial arts like should be up there too.
It should be because you have to know everything.
You have to be competent in a bunch of different
Everything.
ones. Which that's what surprised me about it a little bit too. Because I was like, I figure mixed martial arts would, if you want to really be honest about it, boxing is in mixed martial arts, but mixed martial arts has other stuff too.
Yes.
But it makes sense a little bit because I've talked to a lot of like former UFC guys who actually did pro boxing too and all that. And they're like, Trav, honestly, they were like, yes, UFC's hard, but they were like, boxing's harder because in UFC, if I get tired or something like that, I just take a guy down and I lay on him for a little bit. And I'm allowed to do that. And I rest. And there's just some moments in there you can do that.
Yeah.
Boxing, you can't really do that. No. You can hold him a little bit, but that's standing up too. And you can still be getting a punch while you're holding. So I get it.
And with boxing, you're going to take punches for 12 rounds. In MMA, they, you know, something happens, you get dropped, fight's over, right? As soon as they know that you're not ready for it, or you show that you're not in the fight, they stop it. With boxing, you could go down 2-3 times in the fight, and you're taking punches for those 45 minutes in the fight.
That's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
It takes a lot because you're just standing right there, and you guys are going back and forth. So look at last night with Ryan and
dropped him in the first round.
and Barrios. I mean, how many punches he was taking, and those weren't just light touches.
No.
Those were heavy punches. So, yeah, I agree that boxing is.
It's tough, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's tough, man. Like, we were obviously biased, but I think I'm honest about it. I'm like, dude, I always tell my wife and other people this. So my wife played professional tennis, and it's hard too because they're playing 2, 3, 4. Some of the men play 5-hour matches. That's insane to me.
Yeah, that is.
But what I used to always tell her though, because the tennis players' mental is there. Tennis is similar to boxing mentally because it's one-on-one. You have nobody to help you. So the mental aspect of you're out there by yourself is kind of similar. But I always told her, I was like, listen, you hit a bad shot. Who cares? At least you're not getting punched in the face. You hit a bad shot, you're not going to get hurt, which a lot of tennis players will think about shots, you know, over and over again, and it'll ruin their next shots because they're thinking about the bad shots. I'm just like, dude, just think about it like this. Like, you're not getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
If you make a bad shot, who cares? You can move on because you're not getting punched in the face. And that, I'm not trying to compare, say the boxing's harder or not harder, but I was just like, think about it. That's just mentally for you. Be like, you know what? I'm going to shrug that off because at least I'm not getting punched in the mouth.
No. Or punch everywhere.
Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, so till this day, I had 170 amateur fights, 46 pro fights. I've never been knocked unconscious one time in my whole career. I have TKOs on my record, but those are just, I was not in shape. I wasn't ready. Things like that. The referee stops it or my father stopped it. But body shots,
It's tough.
I went down from some body shots. Nobody's ever knocked me out with a headshot, ever. Body shot, yes, they have. When you're not ready, that's what people don't realize. I tell people, I'm like, if you want to defend yourself, you can drop somebody with a body shot in a street fight. Honestly, like most people aren't expecting it. You knock the wind out of somebody or you break a rib, they're done.
Done. And you can't shake it off.
You cannot shake it off. Especially if you knock the wind out of somebody, you catch them off guard, knock the wind out of them, they're done for 10 to 20 seconds as they're on the ground grasping for air. I remember, man, Terrence Crawford, man, he beat my body up so hard. I remember for weeks after that fight.
Terrence, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I'd been the pros, I'm one of only 11 people in the world that went the distance with him. I lost a decision on points to Terrence Crawford, by the way, on 5 days' notice. So
that's a big deal. Where he's at now.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm telling you, when I fought him, I think he was like 10-0 or something. He was early in his career, but he knocked out everybody before me. I went the distance. He knocked out 13 straight people after me, and then he went on a streak of even more knockouts because he's 42 or 43-0, and he's only not knocked out. He's like 32 knockouts is what he has. I'm one of those that he didn't knock out, but I knew it then. I went on the radio. I'm on record of saying this like in 2008 or 2009. I go, he's the next guy. They're like, Trav, no way. I was like, I promise you. And mind you, I had fought Nonito Donaire in the amateurs. I beat Nonito Donaire in nationals in the amateurs. I beat Anthony Arvelo in nationals, not club shows.
Yeah.
Nationals. I beat these guys. So I'd been in the ring with enough people to where like I feel like I had a good eye for talent. And I was like, Terrence Crawford's the next thing. I said it on the radio. I continued to say it. 2008 or 2009.
Well, 2008 was when we started our amateur shows.
Man, we're 2026 right now.
Yeah, it was in 2008. And we started at that point, and then just kept running with it. So as far as like, that's a long time ago.
Yeah. Now that we look at it,
so when you look later, those words speak volumes because you said he would be something at that time. Being in the ring with him. Some people at that time probably were like,
they
everybody
told me.
They don't hear him.
Oh, I was doing a radio show out of California at the time for like 8 years, and they were like, Trav, shut up. They literally were like, I was like, I promise you. I go, he's the it guy. Watch. They were like, well, what does he do well? I said, everything. I go, his balance is great. His speed is great. His power is great. He switches. He's intelligent. He's smart. I was like, he does everything. Yeah. I couldn't picture one thing. When they asked me that, I was just like, there's not one thing he doesn't do great.
It's Terrence Crawford, man.
I mean, it's been amazing. He's been on my podcast too.
You had Terrence on?
Terrence been on my podcast.
I think I seen something like that. It was
after the Spence fight.
That was my favorite.
Yeah.
It was after the Spence fight you had him on there?
Yep. He's coming back on. I've got text confirmation from so we're friends. After we fight, I feel like you do become friends with a lot of people. People don't understand that about boxing is like, we're doing battle in that ring. I respect you at the end. Unless you're just a piece of crap. Yeah. That does happen. It happens a little bit.
But things get a little too far.
Yeah, a little bit it does happen. But majority of the time it doesn't. If you're in the pro game and you do battle with a guy in that ring, you respect him and you're done. Yeah. You're just like, man, I hated a lot of stuff you said, but holy crap, I know what you went through because I went through it in that ring. So there's a mutual respect there. So we've been friends for literally after my fight. We text on a regular basis.
Pretty cool.
He's a cool dude. He really is a cool dude. He's coming back on the podcast too. Hopefully, the only reason he hasn't been on right after the Canelo fight is because I want to have him in person. He's like, Trav, I'll do a Zoom. He's like, easy. I was like, nope. I was like, I want you here. And his schedule is kind of crazy. He's all over the place now. Yeah. He's like living the dream right now.
Yeah.
And he's retired.
Yeah.
As
he should.
Do you think he'll stay?
I think he will.
Yeah.
I think he'll respect his career enough to say that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy that goes in and out of retirement, back and forth. I mean, he's already proven what he needed to prove. He, successful to take care of his family and to just, take care of the next generation at the same time. So why? What do you need to prove? But fighters are fighters, so you really never know. Yeah. But I know that the money and everything else, I don't think if he ever came back, that wouldn't be the drive. Yeah. I think the drive would be because there's something that he needs to prove to himself, if that, because he's proven everything he can. So, we'll see. I like Terrence Crawford. When he beat Errol Spence.
Did you think he would?
Yeah, of course I did.
I called it years because they were talking about that fight for a while.
Yeah.
Like 2 and 3 years leading up.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, guys, he's gonna beat Errol. And I like Errol too, but it's like people don't understand when I make my predictions. I'm like, it's not that I am rooting for you. I'm like, I'm telling you my expert opinion. He's gonna demolish Errol Spence. And then no way. I'm like, watch. I even called it. I didn't call the knockout though. That was what was impressive. I go, he's gonna drop Errol Spence and he's gonna beat him up and he's gonna win a clear-cut 12-round decision. But he's gonna drop him, and I usually don't say that. And he dropped him, and then dropped him again, and then dropped him again.
Yeah.
That was impressive because Errol Spence at the time was a top 3, I think, pound for pound. And I'm like, when you do that to a top pound for pound guy, you're gonna be the next.
It's the way he did it. Terrence Crawford comes out different in his fights. Like, there's certain times where you see him. I can't remember the fighter that he fought before this fight, but it was a tough fight.
Madrimov.
That was a tough fight.
Oh my gosh, that was
very tough fight.
Honestly, one of his toughest fights, I think.
Yeah, that was a very tough fight. But styles make fights.
Yep.
But I think that fight, because of the body size and just a punch output and the aggression that he had, Terrence Crawford was getting prepared for that Canelo fight because it was kind of the same, power puncher, body frame. But Terrence Crawford is going to go down with the Floyd Mayweathers and everybody.
I think he deserves it. He does, man. He didn't get the big fights early on when he was with Bob Arum in Top Rank. And then, just like everybody, though, man, Oscar De La Hoya had to leave Top Rank to become who he was.
Golden boy.
And then Floyd Mayweather had to leave Bob Arum to become who he was. Terrence Crawford, same thing. When it happened, I was like, that's it, guys. He's about to be super great. He's about to get those big fights because when he was with Bob Arum, he really didn't get those Errol Spence fights, Canelo fights. He didn't get those fights when he's with Arum. And that's not to knock Arum. Arum is phenomenal. We should thank him for a lot of the great fights of all time.
Yeah.
But he held back a lot of great fighters from being even greater. And it is what it is. But Terrence Crawford, when he left Bob Arum, is when he got the legacy fights, which was the Spence. Nobody really knew who Terrence Crawford was until he beat Spence, which blows my mind because he was like 40-0 at the time or 39-0. But nobody, the average person, didn't know who Terrence Crawford was. Blows my mind that's the business part of boxing too. Is
I think that with Bob Arum, it was more of Terrence, and as far as Terrence Crawford goes, it was the money. There was a lot of situation involved with who can sell out arenas and who
he was like, I was losing money on Crawford.
He was.
Yep.
And sometimes, like, even in the sport, just on the business side, you shouldn't hold the fighter back. If the fighter really, you can't deliver for him, and he's in a position where he wants to fight and you still can't, just let him fly. Keep a good relationship, let him go, because again, nobody's perfect. So you're not gonna have everything happen the way you want it. But with those kind of fights, like a Bob Arum, they want to keep you there because they have money invested into you, and they want to hope for the big payday and things like that. But I'm a believer in this. I mean, don't hold nobody back. If you have the opportunity and we can't deliver, now if we're doing our thing and we did everything right, then of course, we're in this together.
We're gonna hold you. We're gonna hold you to the fire.
We're
bro. You signed that contract
exactly because we did what we said we were gonna do, and once we honor our agreement and our dedication to you and your career, then we expect the same thing back, and we're in this together. But those Bob Arums and the Eddie Hearns and the big promoters, is cool, and we love the opportunities fighting for them. But for me, it's a little bit different. And I tell the fighters this all the time: is we need you to make it, right? So
if you make it, we make it,
if
right?
you make it, we make it. And when you're on these bigger companies, sometimes it's not the case. If you take a loss, there's 100 people right behind you in line waiting for that opportunity.
Yep.
But for me, is when you work your way up to that level, we're working that way up together.
Yep.
So when you take a loss, I'm taking the loss with you. And when you win, we win together. And that's the whole idea. And I have goals for me where everybody under our umbrella, we want to be champions. And they all have the potential and the capability to be champion. And I know, and so far we've already fought for the title 3 times in 12 months with different fighters. I'm confident, and I know that we're going to have a whole list of champions in the future.
I like it, man. To throw it back really fast to the Crawford thing, Crawford came on the podcast, and I put him to the fire, man. I was just like, listen, you're 35, about to be 36 when he came on the podcast. He's 38 now. He was just turning 36, I believe. It was like September when I was on there with him. But I was like, what's your end goal? Like, how do you walk off into the sunset And he was like, fight for another undisputed and win it. He goes, and I'm done. I was like, no way, no, you're not. And he did it.
He did it.
He did it. Like, and he said it on my podcast that 2 years prior to Canelo.
Yeah.
And then I, honest to God, didn't think he was going to retire after he did. I was like, no way, he's not. You just won your biggest fight against Canelo Alvarez. No way you're going to retire. The bro retired, and I think he's serious.
Yep.
Like, I actually do believe him. Like, because of how he talked about it too. He said too, just the other day, he was like, there's a lot of things that people don't know, Trav. Like the training camps. He goes, just that. I put my all into everything. The guy never gets out of shape either. He actually lives it. He's like a Mayweather almost. You never see Mayweather fat and out of shape. You hardly have never seen him. You don't see him with alcohol in his hand. Terrence Crawford doesn't drink either.
They're ready.
So he's always ready.
Yep.
But he's just like, Travis, like, when you're always ready, though, you're putting your body through heck all the time, 24/7, through it all. He's like, my body has taken a beating. He's like, I don't have it in me anymore.
And you lose so much if you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're dedicating yourself to the sport and you're making those sacrifices. One thing that I've seen from these fighters, and it even happened on my side, even with the business now being a promoter, is the time away from your family.
Yeah.
You know, that's time that these guys don't get back. And that's why when those fights, is not about just how much they can bring in or what they can do out or how many views they get. It really is worth the sacrifice. It has to be worth it for them because you don't get that time back. And you're going in 6, 7, 8 weeks in camp. But that's considering that you're 100% dedicated and you're doing it right. Sometimes guys, you don't even know if you're in camp. I know back then fighters, they don't get haircuts, grow out their facial hair. They're in camp. They're in Big Bear. They're out there. And it's just, but that time away from the family, you're making that sacrifice so you can go back and take care of them. And so, you know, somebody like Terrence Crawford, you know, he hit the big time, and I'm sure he could take care of his family times two. And so I think if he stays retired, I'm cool with it because he proved himself.
No, I am too, man. As a boxing fan, I'm like, man, I want to see you. But I'm honestly, I'm like, what do you come back for? Like, how do you top Errol Spence and Canelo Alvarez? What else is out there?
I don't think there's anything out there, especially with the divisions, because he can go with a Charlo. He can go with...
I don't necessarily want to see that because I think he beats him.
He will. So there's, at this point, if we're looking at accomplishments and titles, I think he already did what he had to do. Floyd was different. Floyd had to retire, let a few fighters come up a little bit, get the hype going,
get that name,
and then come back and then do it again. But if he would have stood in, there would have been a lot of fights that might not have happened because they wouldn't hold up the value. But when he took a step back and let them grow, he was able to come back in and grab the top guys. Which
was crazy, but yeah, Mayweather was so brilliant with that stuff, man. Which he's coming back. He's doing an exhibition with Tyson.
Yeah.
But then he's doing the real thing. He's like, I'm back. How you feel about that? I don't like it, man.
I don't believe it.
I don't either, and I hope it's not true.
I don't believe it.
I also hope the money issues they're talking about is not true either. But swinging it back around, with the way boxing is going right now, you're kind of in the heat of it with being a promotion of part of some really big cards. How do you feel the state of boxing is right now in the professional ranks?
I think it's in a tough spot. Boxing's in a really tough spot with all this, the extra coming in. You know, you have the Zuffa boxing that's trying to reinvent the wheel. You have, you know, the promoters that are just really at each other's throats at this moment. And the one thing I don't want to see is it prevent the big fights. Like, you know, the Pacquiao and Mayweather fight was prevented. There was a lot of big fights that should have happened that didn't happen at the time it should have because of the politics and stuff. So boxing right now, it's been on a change, even with the MVP, the Jake Paul, you know, with the entertainment side to it and the celebrity fights. So there's just so much going on right now that you just got to stay in your lane, do what you do best. Yeah. And that's what I have in my mind. We're going to do what we do best, but I know that we respect the sport of boxing, and those titles do carry weight, because without those titles, how can you call yourself a champion, right? Yeah. And so I think boxing's in a kind of a weird position right now, but I think it'll find its way out.
I mean, I would agree a little bit. I think that it's in a period of evolving for sure. But I think that's life in general, right? Nothing ever stays the same. In business and everything, it evolves into different things. I mean, we have AI coming out. We have all these other stuff. We have computers. Back when I was a young kid, the computers and the smartphone was coming out. And everybody's like, oh my God, the world's going to change so much. I'm like, that's just the way things are. They evolve and they change. I think I don't think it's a bad thing for boxing. And I think I think it's in a good place, but I think it's in a place of change for sure. Because you would even probably know this. Back in the day, there was only a couple channels that you could watch boxing on. It was like HBO and Showtime. Those were the big fights, or those networks. Those networks are no longer here.
Yeah.
We have DAZN. Now we have Paramount Plus because of Zuffa Boxing, and we have DAZN. All those like apps. They're apps now. They're not really on television, which is kind of crazy to think about it. But that's where it's going. I think boxing is in a good place though, because why are all these people getting into boxing now? Why did Dana White get into boxing? It's because it's in a good place, I believe. Yeah. He's a smart businessman. And he's like, look what boxing's doing right now. I need to jump on board. Right. That's what I think. I don't know that he's hurting it yet. He's just started. He's had 3 shows. That 3rd show was pretty awesome, though.
No, I think their whole plan, everything that they're doing, I mean, it's interesting. It's good. I just, there's a lot of fighters that work hard for WBA, WBC titles, and they push a lot. I'm just not boxing's been around a long time, man, and I know that UFC had made their comments about changing things up, and they were the bigger sport, and boxing is hurting. So to answer that, you're saying that boxing is doing great right now, but I think they came in because now is when boxing is on a transition.
Yeah, he's trying to capitalize.
This is the best time to move in, and not knocking them because they're opening up doors of opportunity for the fighters. And if you look at it, a lot of guys besides Conor Benn, but like the Andy Ruiz signing and the guys that they're working with, Hot Rod from Tampa that just fought, that was a great fight. Those guys might not get the opportunity that Zuffa's given them.
Yeah.
Besides Conor, they're not going to get that. So I respect what they're doing, and I think it's good because any opportunity for a fighter is great. They're the ones going in there risking it all. So, but I'm on the old school boxing side.
I mean, listen, I'm just mixed because I talk to a lot of people that don't know much about boxing sometimes. Like I go across the average fan a lot. Yeah. And I try to explain to them sometimes it's tough to explain to people that there can be 4 different world champions in one weight class. Mm-hmm. That is tough to explain to people because in every other sport, you win the Super Bowl, you're the only champion. You win the NBA Finals, you're the only champion. You win the World Series, you're the only champion. In boxing, we could technically have 4 different heavyweight champions of the world.
But
that's confusing.
All belts carry different weight.
100%.
IBF.
But the average person doesn't realize that, though. Exactly. That's my thing.
Yeah.
So there's got to be something. I'm not against the belts at all. But I think we do need some kind of changing of the guard a little bit, meaning we're going to have to figure it out because charging these fighters sanctioning fees too, I think is just crazy. If you're Crawford, so Crawford's going through it, right? He snubbed the WBC, which I think was easy for him to do because I think he knew he was retiring. So that was easy. If he would have done it earlier in his career, I probably would have respected it more because I'm like, oh, you're bucking the trend and you're still in the game, but you pieced out. Yeah. It doesn't hold as much weight for me. It doesn't. I was like, you kind of took the easy way out. Yeah, you snubbed them, but you're retired, so you don't have to deal with them anymore. Other people do. But Crawford did negotiate the other 3 titles and the sanctioning fees, and he paid those. The WBC just refused to negotiate with him. They do hold enough weight. The WBC is a big deal, but he paid the WBA, he paid the WBO, and he paid the IBF. But the WBC said, no, you're going to pay us $300,000, which is already a discount because they charge 3%. And Crawford's like, no, I'm not. I'm already paying for the other 3. My point is, in any other major professional sport, you do not have to pay to be a champion. The Super Bowl, those players do not pay to play in the Super Bowl. The NBA, those players do not pay to win a title. In boxing, you pay to win a title.
Yeah, but that's a little bit different. They're getting paid contracts for their games. Whether they win the championship or not, their contract don't change. Right or wrong?
Yeah.
So if you get a $30 million contract and how many guys right now that Reggie Miller and all those guys, they never won a championship, but they've made millions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I get that part. But on the boxing side, this is a chance for them to grow and win those titles, but you need those titles to be able to get into those big fights to make the money. Right? The guys don't get the $30-40 million contracts without having those championship belts. They don't have those opportunities. Now, it gets tricky because if we mix the Terrence Crawford and everybody else, I feel like it's a different situation because I don't think you should up the sanction based on what he's getting paid.
There you go.
And I don't think that was right? But with boxing is like, if Terrence Crawford was going to continue fighting, or if he was still early in his career, then you need to respect those sanctions, and with all respect, but you need to respect those sanctions because those are the ones that got you to that point. When I want to be the WBC champion, I want to be the undisputed world champion, I want to be the best champion. You always want to say you want to be a champion.
Yeah.
So being a champion comes with those belts. What they did to Terrence was just, I don't know the details, but from what I heard and read is, he didn't feel like it was a fair shake when everybody else was able to negotiate a fair deal, and they didn't do it. So whatever works for them.
So
right?
you made a point, and I think you're on point with that, and I think you're right. I don't mind the belts, but I do think they charge by a percentage of their total purse.
Yes.
I don't like that. Where's the flat fee? Give them a flat fee. I could get on board with something like that. Like every single organization is like, hey, you fight for my title. No matter who you are, where you're coming from, you're paying this flat fee. That's it.
Yeah.
Because 3%. So Canelo made $100 million, bro. The WBC charged him 3% of $100 million.
Right.
He had to pay that to fight for their title.
Right.
And Canelo doesn't need that. He's to a point in his career where he doesn't need the WBC. He's not.
Yeah.
Like he sells himself. Canelo Alvarez could fight tomorrow and not fight for any kind of titles, and people would watch it.
Right.
But I do agree. What the belts do is the belts do help promote boxers. And that's the thing. That's when you pay that sanctioning fee, you're paying for them to promote you. And they do. The belts do a pretty good job. I mean, the WBC is very recognized, right? Like all the old champions, like the WBC, the green belt, people want to win the green belt for the most part. But nowadays, it's just changing. And I think that charging a sliding fee is just rough for me. Mm-hmm. When you charge a guy 3%, this guy's making $100,000 and you're charging him not much.
Have you ever heard, until this point, a fighter complain about sanction fees?
Well, no, but you know why? Because of promoters like you that do stuff behind the scenes that they don't know. Mm-hmm. Like you're handling all of that. Yeah. So those fighters don't have to deal with that because of good promoters. Yeah. So I think a lot of fighters coming up probably didn't even know they were paying those sanctioning fees. Yeah. Not that it was getting hidden from them, but the promoter was making their job easier, which is what you do. You make the job easier for your fighters. You're like, hey, I just want you to worry about fighting. I'll handle the business aspect. I'll handle all this other stuff. But yeah, I don't think they complained, but I don't think they complained because they didn't know. And I think now because of social media, it's getting out there more.
And I've been around these fighters, certain fighters that for titles, and you want that title to be able
100%.
You need that.
It legitimizes you, right?
But in boxing, you get into the sport because of course you get to take care of your family, you get to, the success that comes from it. But true champions, that's their number one goal. I want to be the best in the world.
Yep.
Right? And in order to be the best in the world, if this belt holds the weight that it has, then great. That's what I'm going for. I want to have the WBC title. I want to have the WBA. I want to unify. I want to win multiple world-class championships in different weight divisions. Yeah. That's what you want. And back in the day, fighters, it was opposite. Fighters were, instead of fighting and being worried about the prize, they were fighting for pride. Because some of those guys back in the day will fight anybody just to prove they're the best, right? And then things change because people follow the trends. So when one main fighter makes it all about the money and the sanctions and the this and the that, then you have all these young guys that are looking up to you that are going to start doing the same thing. And what happens is guys retire after making the money and after winning the championships. And now these guys got to figure it out because now things are going to get difficult. Now the WBC and all these other titles are going to be like, we got to get better at this. So guys like Terrence Crawford doesn't just dip out on us.
Yeah.
Miguel Cotto, when he fought Canelo, he gave up the belts and said, keep them, right? Because he didn't want to pay the sanction. So they all knew that there's a sanction fee involved. They knew that. I mean, if they didn't, then they didn't really look at their check because they know that they're going to pay the sanction. We know that now. The sanctions are not as much now for the smaller titles, but you're always going to pay a sanction for that title. And I'm looking at it now with the guys that I have, those belts mean a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because those belts are, according to championship belts, that just shows what we're doing and where we're going.
Yeah.
So we get a guy win the WBA title, the Continental title. We get ranked. We're on top. we're not going to get the big title fight unless we're coming in on the B side,
you have to.
right?
Yep.
So in this case, it's very important that if you want to be a champion, you respect the organization. Sometimes it's just like, paying taxes, man. Sometimes you pay it down 3-4 times, right?
Yeah, you don't want to, but you do it.
Well, look at the W, and I don't want to mention a specific belt, but look at the organizations with belts. Just look at them like they're pretty much just taxing you on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it sucks because we get taxed 3-4 times on our money, right?
Yep.
But those belts are going to bring you enough money that you probably don't need to complain about the taxes or whatever you're paying on it. So I'm still all for the championship belts.
I'm 100% agree, but I do think some changes need to be made.
Yeah.
I think they need to evolve with the times a little bit, and that's all I'm saying is that too. But also they need to be careful because nowadays the most coveted belt though is the Ring Magazine belt, and that one's free. So these guys got to be careful because it's becoming something that now you also have Dana White making the Zuffa belt.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, nobody's growing up and being like, I want to win the Zuffa belt.
Yeah.
They're not. But also, way back in the day before the belts were created, nobody was probably in the early 20s was saying, I want to win the WBA belt because it hadn't been created yet.
Right.
So it has to start somewhere. I get it. But also, I know what you're saying, and I agree. When you're bringing it up, to win a regional WBA belt or a WBC or WBO, like, it's a big deal.
It is.
And I love that. We need that. That's why I don't want to get rid of them. They do matter. But I think at some point, you can't be overcharging some of these world champions a crazy fee.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair.
No, I don't think so either. I think I agree with you on that. With doing where you have it as a set rate, I think that's that could be fair, or maybe have them in tiers. Depending on how big the fights are, because everybody needs to grow together. Yeah. And if we open the door for you to get you in that position, then we all got to eat. We all got to work together. But going back to the terms, the reason why that was a big deal was because everyone agreed to a fair amount, and for whatever reason, they chose to do something. There was something the other day with a title fight where, the sanctions, and it's just they're pushing it down because they don't. Oh, it was Shakur Stevenson.
Yeah, they took his title away.
You know what I mean?
Because he went up in weight class, which happens. He was a 35-pound champion, went up in weight class, and they stripped him.
I didn't agree with that.
That was the WBC.
I didn't agree with that.
But he's also best buddies with Terrence Crawford, so I think that there's a little bit of rift going on there.
Yeah.
So Shakir's a good friends with Crawford. He was there. They're really good buddies, and the WBC knows that. And I think
but he wasn't fighting for the WBC title on the next weight class. See, so things like that could be the change.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, why are you going to take a sanction? Your belt's not even involved in the fight.
Yeah.
That
not even the weight class,
Yeah.
a 4-year belt. So and that's where it does. It needs to change a little bit. We need some things. And WBC's done some great things. I know we're hammering on them, but I remember having Christy on the show, and Christy was like, listen, I don't agree with a lot of stuff they're doing. She goes, but Travis, when I was in the toughest time of my life, she goes, Mauricio Suleiman sent me a check to cover my rent and my mortgage. And then when I got back on my feet, I tried to pay him back, and he said, nope. He goes, that was a gift. Thank you for all you've done.
Yeah, because
they do good things.
Champions.
They're a not-for-profit organization, but they profit a little bit, obviously. But they're a not-for-profit organization, so they do help fighters a lot. And that's what they were saying when Crawford dissed them. They were like, we were going to donate that money to retired fighters and all this stuff. And Crawford's like, well, I can do that on my own. I don't need you to take my money to donate it. I can help out too. But it is what it is. Listen, Anthony, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. I think it's been awesome. This is chapter 1, bro. Okay. You got to come on more, and I mean that. Listen, I tell everybody this. My biggest thing is I want to be genuine with people. So what I talk about with you in person, off the air, on the air, I want it to be who I am, and it is. No matter what I say here, I'm going to say it off the air too. I'm going to say it to other people too. I don't deal with the lies and the BS stuff. I talk to people straight, and I love that. So I appreciate what you're doing for boxing, and I look forward to your building of it all. But from being inside the ring yourself to now being on the other side promoting shows, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate watching your fighters progress, the guys you have under your organization. I appreciate a lot of the loyalty that your fighters show, because I know that I've had a couple of your fighters on my podcast, and you show up for those. Your coaches show up for those, and they really support the fighters. I appreciate that. Yeah. I think that's good for fighters, and as long as you're treating fighters good, and it seems that you are, I haven't heard anything otherwise. Yeah. I appreciate that about you.
No, I appreciate you being on the podcast. It's been a long time coming.
I know, man.
And there was time I had pushed a fighter in rather than me get in there, because I want them to get the shine. I want them to be out there to gain the experience of being there, get their story out there, and this is all a part of the plan. You're a part of everybody that you brought on this podcast. You're a part of their movement, because it's getting out there. They're able to have a mic, have a voice to be able to speak and speak their words. So we appreciate that, because I've watched these guys out and they've been excited to come in and do that. Even friends they don't have to be my fighters. I know when you had Nelson here, you had a few guys on here, and I'm like, that's cool, man. But Travis is doing his thing. But I do want to say that, with the fighters that we have now, I'm fully confident that we're going to have the champions that we want. And they all have the potential to do it. Corey Marksman's next, right? Corey Marksman
can fight, bro. He can fight.
And where Corey's at now in his career, we're in a great position. We're going to make an announcement this week. And I know there's been some words that are going on out there, but he's got a great opportunity in front of him, and we're going to take full advantage of it. We got David Garcia, who comes home over the summer, and he'll be back in. I know you've seen his fights when he was on MVP, knocking people out. We got a bunch of guys, Josiah Shirley, who just fought over the weekend. We're just going to keep moving these guys on Travius Ingram all the way till we get the champion that we've been looking for.
So a world champion is what's next for Undisputed Promotions.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal. But we gotta crawl before we walk. We gotta go up there and prove to the world, win those championships, and keep working our way up. So, we're ready. March, April, May, we're back to back. You're gonna see a lot of the local guys coming in and putting in their time, putting in their work, and bring great fights for everybody.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for weighing in today with me on Weighing In with Travis Hartman, brother. I appreciate your time.
I made weight.
Also, another happy birthday to your pops.
I appreciate
Hope you guys celebrate that here at the Carib Royale. We're inside the Stadium Club. Again, thank you to Don Rico Tequila for sponsoring the podcast. But thank you to Undisputed Promotions owner, Anthony Arvelo. I appreciate your time, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody that has supported us, everybody that continues to support us, Carib, Box Lab Promotions, Round 12 Management, Travis Hartman, everybody that's just been a part of our movement. We appreciate it, and we're going to keep moving forward.
God bless, brother.
Thank you.